Us writers come up with a bunch of story ideas and treat them like an addiction, frankly. We obsess over them until they go stale. I mean, I wouldn't know what having an addiction is like because I have been lucky enough to not have one, but there are some decisions and some creative ideas that get strung in our brains that we realize aren't good and just need to be cut off sometimes. My name is Amy Rosenfeld, and today we are talking abandoned stories. After 10 freaking months, we are finally back to another installment of the Forever First Draft series where I share 5 abandoned stories that I have little to no interest in going back to, but I obsessed with for a short, long, or indeterminable period of time. If you have enough old story ideas floating around that you want to share to the world, then you can join in this challenge as well. I would love to hear about what's going on inside that little brain of yours. But in my head, we got a lot of stories back when I was in high school and creativity fueled my blood. I have so many, and if this video does not cover all of them because I forgot one for some reason, then it'll just roll over into my university stories whenever I decide to bring that video out. So without further ado, here are another 5 Forever First Drafts. You are hot with the alliteration today, Amy. Alright, the first story we have is Wisdom. This story was based around an RP character that I had made. The second one, I think, in the Forever First Draft series that I have mentioned. And in this case, these characters, because I remember now there was more than one, are lesbian witches. I don't think I ever got this story fully fleshed out, which prevented me from writing it. And to be fair, it had no plot. I just had a bunch of scenes floating around and I tried to make a story out of them. So this urban fantasy romance for new adults would have potential, but it just didn't have the right direction. Cammy is our main girl who encounters the hot blonde witch Dell. They meet when Dell is committing witchy crimes, which ends up intriguing Cammy and she ends up joining with them. What were the witchy crimes? Good fucking question. I remember I had a very vague idea for a plot direction on what this witch coven hiding in the city could be doing. What city? Again, good question. I think this is meant to be like the Salem witch trials, but in the 21st century? But I had yet to get to that point, so oh well, better luck next time. Cammy was just not that witch. Okay, this next one, I do not remember at all what the title was. Recalling this idea in my head, I called it the knockoff British Miraculous Ladybug. For those of you who do not know what I'm talking about, let me educate you. Miraculous Ladybug is an animated, like, preteen girl power series, which is very anime inspired, and the lead characters in that had secret identities which were able to help them transform magically into animal-themed superheroes. So what I did was I put it in London and I made it sci-fi. I think I even envisioned this as a TV series in my conception days. And this wouldn't be the only TV series idea on the list either. And it kind of makes sense at the time because I wanted to be in film and TV production going into university. Each character who was of the right age to be in high school got their hands on a piece of magical tech which would grant them the abilities that an animal would typically have. This could either be one entire piece of tech or a series of pieces of tech that would give them this sort of personage. I only remember what 2 of them got. The leading male had the theme of an eagle, and he was granted these goggles which granted him bird's eye view, heightened perception, and then giant steel wings, which in retrospect is thoroughly unpractical. And the leading lady, she had Wolverine claws and shoes that made her run faster. I don't quite know how exactly, but she was the cheetah. That was all I managed to solidify. I think another character was called Dove or something, but I have no idea what her tech was. But what I do remember is how I did not come up with a plot or a villain for this tale. Yeah, you could hardly call it a story, but I'm still including it on here because sure, why not? I don't know if I should apologize for wasting your time. Alright, the next one we're going to be talking about is the 3 Worlds Ghetto, and this one I don't think is going to be a forever first draft. I have lately become a bit more invigorated with this idea as I've been like reflecting on it, so this story idea might actually come into fruition in some form. And this will all depend on how famous my ASTER'S Coda series gets because it takes place in the same universe. I envision this as an animated series akin to stuff like Arcane or Ruby. Later down the line, you guys will get introduced to a city in the world of Corin called Night, spelt N-Y-T. Because I'm creative, it is cyberpunk fantasy at its finest, including heavy smog and air pollution. We focus on 6 characters within this series, including a brother-sister pair who are involved with a gang and a black market, an undercover cop, a Power Stone miner/supplier, a bounty hunter, and I don't remember what the 6th one was. I think they were involved with law enforcement in some form, but I don't remember how. If this were to become a series, I know by heart what would happen in the pilot episode. I've got that like replaying in my head exactly, and I'm even tempted to maybe start writing a script for it or something. One of my goals was to start a Kindle Vella series. This might be the series I turn into Kindle Vella. And I know also some of the stuff happening in the middle, and I have a scene set in stone of how I want it to end. But as you can imagine, I gave up on this story because I didn't quite have the connections to have it come to life. Maybe in the future, however, because it would be very nice to get it to happen in some form. I don't know about Kindle Vella, but TV series, maybe if I'm more famous. So if you guys are interested in that, you just need to buy ASTER'S Coda, and you'll be able to see Night in its first form there. Not in the first book, but later down the line. Or if you want to check it out early, then buy it anyway, and that will show me you guys are excited for it. I gained a minor obsession with laser tag in high school, and story number 4 is the result of it. Just simply called the Lazer Tag Team. The concept of it was pretty simple. It was a middle school laser tag team. Their training base, shop, venue, studio thing becomes host to some kind of alien virus, alien invasion type situation. And the place has to get shut down, but to clear it out, the tag team must team up to be able to fight them using all their laser strategies that they learned to do it in a competitive form. Not only does this sound like a story that already exists, but I'm not a middle grade author. I have published young adult, and I'm planning new adult and adult stories, but middle grade rarely crosses my mind. I don't envision myself writing for anybody under the age of 15 in all honesty. Those kids cannot comprehend the shit that goes on in my brain. Furthermore, all I conjured up for that story was just the climax, which I was basically describing in the premise. Not even the beginning, even though it's typical for me to miss up the middle. Miss up, it's like I'm combining miss out and mess up. Not to mention the lack of characters. I enjoy character-driven stories, as you can tell, and a character is usually one of the first things I think of when it comes to these stories, but I didn't come up with a single character. Not their name, not their gender, not even their age. Moving on to another generic story idea, which young Amy had buttloads of, this is the story of Cleo. It's a super soldier story. Cleo, spelt C130, which I now realize is dangerously close to C3PO, is a trained super soldier with a license to kill like no other, as you know, most super soldiers are, and she was trained that way since birth, so she doesn't know any different. Then the base where she lives gets assaulted and she has to flee out into the modern world. Oh no! My god, how was I getting more generic as I grew older? Because the most creative story that you came up with at that age, Amy, is the one that's getting published. I'll give you 3 guesses as to why I dropped this story idea. Not that I'm saying that the way a story is written or like the plot of it doesn't matter. I just don't like being generic. There's a reason that the only high fantasy series I have planned, in a Tolkien-esque sort of way, is queer as fuck. There's no other way I'm going to be interested. And the longer I thought about human C3PO, the less appealing her story was to me. Oh boy, and thus concludes another round of Forever First Drafts. I genuinely wonder how long it's gonna be until installment number 4, but I hope you guys are ready for more stories, cause I think we've only just touched half of them. Well, regardless, if you did enjoy this video and the stories I've been sharing, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new around here. You can ring that bell to find out when I post more creative content, and you can check in the description to buy my book, and you can also find my Instagram, my TikTok, my Storygraph, and my website. Stay creative, everybody, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.